This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast with today's guest, Tabitha Carro.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. I'm Selena Knight, the retail strategist, and I'm here to help you grow your retail business. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to hear what I have to share. Now, I will apologize in advance for my slightly croaky voice. I have just dropped back into Sydney from over a week in San Diego, and I appear to have come back with a sinus infection and a little bit of a cold. So I'm a little bit croaky, but I am still here, ready to share a whole bunch of amazing information with you. Well, what can I say? San Diego, you were amazing. If you haven't been keeping up with where I've been and what I've been doing, I was over in San Diego and I met up with my marketing manager, Monica, and we spent a few days just planning out some sales funnels, really honing in on our branding and just mapping out where I wanted my business to go. It was fantastic to actually sit down in person. We did it in a few different places. We went to a cafe, we hung out at the park, we brainstormed, and we got the colored Sharpies out in the lounge room of the Airbnb, and we just went crazy. Filled up a whole notebook of stuff. Just put everything down on paper, just like a giant brain dump. And we put it all down there, and over the next few weeks, we'll be taking the information that we've learned at the conference we went to, Traffic and Conversion, and working on our next quarter, our next 6 months, and our next year goals. It's really, really fantastic. I'm really excited. Now, traffic and conversion. I don't know if you heard my little Facebook Live that I did last week. It was 5 conversation starters that you can use when you don't know anyone in the room. Now, bearing in mind, I went to this conference literally knowing no one other than Monica, and we split up. There were 4 ballrooms with sessions going every 45 minutes, so we didn't even see each other for most of the day. So it's really important to have these conversation starters. So I used all of the ones that I shared with you. And if you are looking for those, I'll pop a link in the show notes to that little Facebook Live that I did sharing my 5 conversation starters when you don't know anyone in the room. However, one of the things that I really pointed out in that little video is there are always after parties at these events. Always, 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 always. And it is so easy to just not be bothered, especially when you've been up since 8 o'clock in the morning, you've been learning so much, you've been walking around, you get to 5:30, you just want to have a glass of wine, something to eat, and flop on the bed. However, I said this in that video, and I'm going to say it again. Those are the places, those after parties, those networking events that are away from the conference or the trade fair, those are where you make serious business connections. And that is exactly what happened with me. I met some amazing people who can seriously help me grow my business, and I can help them grow theirs as well. So I have a bunch of meetings all set up over the next few weeks to talk about joint venture partnerships, to talk about licensing agreements, to talk about advisory boards, like you name it, it came up at this conference. And we haven't even gotten started on the things that I learned. Now, what I focused on at this conference was I really wanted to know more about social media advertising, not necessarily Facebook ads. I needed to know what was trending in Facebook ads, and I had a great session there which absolutely blew my mind and gave us a lot of tips that we'll be putting in place for our clients to help them grow their e-commerce sales. But I also wanted to look at alternatives, specifically YouTube and Pinterest. Now, YouTube was covered by a few different speakers, and I went to all of those events. It was just enlightening to see that YouTube is a seriously untapped market when it comes to advertising. And Facebook and Google are really oversaturated, which means you need to be building relationships and you need to have a decent ad spend. Whereas Google and Pinterest, not so tapped out at the moment. So I went to, I think it was 3 or 4 YouTube sessions, all specializing in something different. One was about targeting, one was about viral videos, one was about how to craft your video, the stories that you tell, and then one was about advertising. So those, when I put them all together, have really made me think that YouTube ads are somewhere I would like to investigate further. Now, what I didn't see, not to say that there wasn't somebody there, because I think there were something like 100 sessions. You couldn't have gone to all of them. In fact, I think there were more than 100 sessions. I didn't see anyone focusing on Pinterest. As I said, not to say that there wasn't somebody there, but I didn't actually go to a session that focused on Pinterest. And I think these alternative traffic sources are where we really need to focus our time and attention in the very near future. Using these alternative media options that aren't just your Facebook and Google to get your brand out there for a lot cheaper. But this comes with a disclaimer. Like any advertising, you have to be prepared to, 1, test and measure. You have to spend the money and monitor what's working and what's not. And 2, you also have to be prepared to go outside your comfort zone, because recording a YouTube video, whether it's your face or whether it's your products, whether it's like a ripple video, those are outside everybody's comfort zone usually. Most people you're okay just typing some text and popping a picture in a Facebook ad. But video can be a little bit daunting. So going outside your comfort zone and being prepared to test and measure will really help you accelerate your brand and get your products out there when it comes to advertising. And if getting your brand out there, if you're a product creator or a distributor, if getting your product out there and into stores is something that you're going to be focusing on, I think you will like my brand new download. It is the ultimate guide to getting your product into stores. I know, not the most creative title, but it does what it says. And in it, I share my 3-step process for you to master the art of getting stockists if you are a product creator or a product supplier or distributor. And you can grab that for free over at selinaknight.com/products. Quite simple, quite easy. And if you are looking to get more stockists for your products, that guide will seriously help you to navigate the world of talking to business owners and getting your products stocked. Grab it at selinaknight.com/products. It's really easy to get caught up in the latest and the greatest and the fanciest and taking your business to the next level. But something I was reminded of at Traffic and Conversion is sometimes the simplest things are actually the best. The most easiest videos to take can quickly become viral. And that's because there's connection. They're not contrived. Think of all those cat videos. They're not contrived. All the dogs jumping around videos, they're not scripted out. They are just real life. And so sometimes we have to remember that just whipping out our smartphone can be the easiest way to create a viral video. And that is exactly what today's guest, Tabitha Carro, is going to show you. She's going to show you some tips, some hacks, and even some apps that you can use or with the aid of your trusty smartphone that will help you market and advertise your business and create connections. And creating that connection is what marketing is all about. So let's jump into today's episode where Tabitha shares so much information. This is one of my favorite episodes on how you can use your simple cell phone to make fantastic marketing material. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to do a great big shout out to the patrons of the show. Now, this is something that we implemented in episode 100, which is where my daughter Alana, who's 8, interviewed me and got a little bit obsessed with our dog. It's very funny. If you need to pick me up, go and listen to an 8-year-old get interviewed. But this show stays proudly independent, just like your retail store, because of people like you who pledge their support to keep it going. Now, putting this show together is not easy and it costs a lot of money. You know this. This is how business works, right? So I'm out there putting anywhere between 5 and 8 pieces of business strategy advice in your pocket or in your earbuds every single month. And you can pledge your support to keep the show alive. So I would love it if you would become a patron of the show. Simply head on over to selinaknight.com/patron and you can find the information there. Click the big button on the show notes if you would like to pledge your support and jump into today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Today we have Tabitha Carro. She's an iPhone visual marketing addict and a smartphone marketing guru. And just before we hopped on, we were talking all things photos, Instagrams, because there's a plural, of course. And I was like, stop. We have to start recording because we are getting into so much detail already. So welcome to the show, Tabitha.
Thank you, Selena. I'm super happy to be here.
Now, I'm always upfront about the fact that I'm on Instagram. I post on Instagram. I'm trying to get better at Instagram. I'm on Instagram because I know my people are on Instagram. I'm just not a visual person. I'm like so left brain. Give me dot points any day of the week and I will get you an answer. But the composition and even merchandising in my stores, we always laugh about the fact that I would try to merchandise things and the girls would come in the next day and change it. And it got to the point where they would leave me notes on the box that just went, I'll do the merchandising tomorrow.
So let me handle it.
This is not, putting photographs together and putting graphics together, not my area of expertise. So this is why I love having people like you on the show. And it is super good timing because last week I was recording videos for my new course, which probably is about to go live when this goes live. And I had so many problems with my DSLR. First of all, my lav mic wouldn't work. And then when I changed mics, the memory card was full. I just had a whole day, literally 6 hours of filming and not a piece of footage. The next day, I woke up and went, I don't stuff this. iPhone,
right.
Lav mic, extension cord, recorded,
yes.
Done, looks perfect, looks great. And I just went, why? Why was I so hung up on using a DSLR? So tell us, you are the expert here. Tell us why we can just get good quality images, we can get good quality videos in this day and age with we're just going to say iPhone, okay? I know that the Android people, I was an Android fan too. For the sake of ease, let's just call it an iPhone. So why is an iPhone so good in this day and age?
Well, the technology has just evolved. It's really crazy and ridiculous. And whether it's an Android or an iPhone, the cameras are phenomenal. Obviously, they're digital and not mechanical like the DSLR. And there's certain results that you're not going to be able to produce, obviously, that you can with a professional camera. But if you're not a professional photographer, I'll just say in my own personal opinion, not to, those who are taking that time to use that professional camera, I will just say there's like no reason effort-wise and brain energy-wise and time-wise to not be utilizing the camera on your phone, because now there's editing apps that are phenomenal. It's a tool that you can just directly post. You take the photo, you edit it, you post it all within the same piece of tech. Whereas if you do this, like you explained your struggles, it's so interesting because it's exactly my struggle. That was my struggle that led me to create Smartphone Marketing School, because I had these products that I was trying to take photos of. I was trying to do a YouTube channel and really be professional. My husband is a true photographer and he has all the gear. I was trying to use it. And literally I was spending whole weekends just to produce one video or just to do one photo shoot of my products. And it was so completely exhausting. And then I have been an iPhone girl since day one, iPhone 3 was my first. But when I got to the 6 is when I just completely switched over photos and videos and used the iPhone as my medium for taking them. But then right now I currently have the 7 Plus because portrait mode, which I highly recommend anybody who's in the market for upgrading, please go with Plus. If it's an iPhone, please go with Plus or please go with the X. Although I'm not 100% on the X bandwagon because the screen being different proportions, sometimes the apps are not really up to date and ready to work with iPhone X. So my recommendation is always go with Plus because of the portrait mode, because you're going to be able to snap quick shots of your items that you're selling with that blurred background that looks so great.
Oh, the depth of field. My husband has that on his.
Yes.
And it looks so much better.
Totally. And people don't realize when they invest in their next phone, they'll get just the 7 or just the 8, not really realizing that doesn't come with a dual camera that can create that depth of field effect. It's only with the Plus or with X, as I mentioned before. And so, I just think if you're a busy person, which I know everybody listening is a busy person, and you're trying to maintain your business, you're trying to also produce visuals that will professionally and creatively market your products. I just think now with the technology, there's no reason not to be using your phone. I honestly, I have tons of friends in my niche, which is the teacher entrepreneur niche. And, they take photos now. And it's interesting. 2 years ago, you could totally tell the difference between who was using a professional camera to show their products and who wasn't. Now I honestly have no idea. I'll have to ask, was that an iPhone photo? And they'll say yes. And I'm like, oh my goodness, because the results we can produce now are incredible.
It is. And like you were saying, I tend to shoot by myself because I want to do it when it's peaceful, it's quiet. I know I'm not going to get any interruptions. And it's even harder when you're trying to videos are especially hard because with the DSLR, I have it connected. Well, let's just say it's probably never going to be used ever again. I had the special software that connected it to my laptop so I could see what I looked like and, constantly moving and the lights and pressing go, but then it wouldn't alert me if the SD card was full. Honestly, after last week, I probably will never pick that thing up again because the quality of the footage that came out from my iPhone, and I've got a 7, not a 7 Plus, just a 7, you could not tell the difference. And,
right,
like you said, there's some post-editing that you can do if you're a little bit fab, and you're going to give us some great apps coming up to talk about how we can do that. But really, there is no excuse for having poor photos in this day and age.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll tell you really quick, if you are talking to the camera, which it sounds like you are, I'm not 100% on just the 7, but I know the 7 Plus, the front camera, the selfie camera is now 1080 pixels HD, which is amazing. So what you can actually do, before when I, originally began using my iPhone to do my talking head videos, you had to face it with the back camera because that was it was the only one that was, and so you couldn't see yourself and you were just guessing. So you still kind of had that frustrating aspect that you also have with the DSLR. Well, now you can have it where you see yourself, selfie camera, and just make sure you press on the screen on yourself so that will lock. Talking iPhone here will lock the autofocus and exposure on you and really hone in on you and keep the background a little bit more blurred. But it's amazing because you can now see yourself and you now know if you're way down. Like sometimes I'd do a whole clip and then I look and my head's halfway down, in the screen and you can't barely see me. I'm like, oh my goodness. And so now it's amazing because you can it's just that whole world. If anybody out there is doing videos where they're talking to the camera or whatever, now the fact that you can just be looking at your phone screen and be producing high quality 1080 HD video, it's amazing.
Okay, so clearly we should have had this interview before I started filming last week because I did not know that.
I feel so bad. Yes. When I heard you talking, I was like, oh my goodness.
That's
like,
okay.
It can be so much easier.
I still have 4 more to record. So I did 4. I've still got 4 more. But
Awesome.
I used the back camera. So what I did do was I got my husband to come down and set it up. And then I taped on the floor where my feet had to be.
That's smart.
So, look, people, what you see on camera is not what happens behind the scenes.
Of course not. I mean, you put your best face forward. Nobody needs to know that there's tape on the floor.
On the floor. No shoes, all that kind of stuff. So tell me, how has using your iPhone to create this, we call it visual content, how has it actually increased your marketing productivity?
Well, I think I'm sure a lot of people can relate to the fact that you do a blog post or you do a caption, and the biggest headache is always like the visual. Oh my goodness, I gotta have something visual. It's 2018. People aren't motivated now if they don't see it, and it's got to be pretty, and so it's exhausting when you're needing to constantly, especially I'm sure in the retail business, mass produce these visuals. Well, once you learn how to do it from your phone in a quality way that looks great, it's just you'll be able to produce so much more. And that's what happened to me. I was finding, and it's interesting, we call ourselves couch hustlers, the ones who now we just predominantly use our phones for photos, designs, and videos. And it's interesting because it becomes the part of marketing that you want to do. And I've noticed now I'll come up with an idea for a visual, and now I need to make up the reason
why you need it.
Yeah, why this visual? I've been doing these screenshot engagement posts. I had a friend of mine be like, how can we do this? And it's rapid fire shows like you can do different emojis, and you'd be screenshot your emoji mood of the day. And I'm like, how can I tie this into smartphone marketing? But it's just funny because you come across a cool app and you're like, wow, it can do this kaleidoscope effect on your photo. And you're like, how can I make this work? But I think it gives you a confidence to your marketing. It also just takes away that headache of oh my goodness, okay, I wrote this post or I wrote this blog post. Now I need the filler visuals, the filler images. And instead of that being a headache, it's actually oh, this is easy. I can go here to this app, open up, use a template that I've already got. Adobe Spark Post is one I highly recommend. And you can take that one design that you took the time initially to create, and then you just duplicate it. You repurpose it for all your future blog post designs, your Instagram post, your Facebook post, a Facebook ad. You can take that one design and it'll resize it for you. It's just amazing to me, the productivity now that you can have with the visual aspect. So it makes it more smooth sailing in general for all the things that you're doing marketing wise.
Now you are the app queen. Before we got onto this thing, onto the actual interview, you were going, and this would be great app, and this would be great app. So give us, say, your top 3 apps that you think retailers could use every single day to help with their visual marketing.
Okay, so hopefully I can just limit it to 3. The first one I always, there's so many, but the first one I need to say that it's kind of the boring app, but it's so essential, is Google Photos app. This is available for Android as well. It will store your photos in their cloud that you can access from your Google account on desktop, right where you access calendar and mail. There's a little colorful pinwheel. That's your Google Photos account. The bottom line for having this app, if you're making it serious to use your phone for visual creation, is just keeping your storage on track, because it gives you free unlimited photo and video storage. So you just sync it up every couple days. I'll go in there, tap assistant, and you'll see it backing up. I just make sure it's backed up everything before I go into my camera roll and start deleting, because even though I've got right now 256 gigabytes, it's crazy now because the technology has increased. You will also be producing video files and photo files that are extremely larger than they used to be even a year ago. So that's an app that is just a must-have for anybody who's going to start using their phone, especially for video marketing. So Google Photos. Then we'll talk about if I had to recommend just a simple photo editing app for those who are not photographers but want to give that extra pop to your photos, I always recommend A Color Story. 3 words, A Color Story. They have the free version, the Essentials pack. It's great for making product photos really stand out and getting that bright white look to your photos, which is, I think, definitely necessary. Obviously, you can take great photos with your phone, but I would never put an unedited photo out there on my feed, because if you just run it through this app that I mentioned, A Color Story, it's going to make a tremendous difference. Like, you'll honestly think that the photo is great, and then you run it through this app and you're like, oh my goodness, that photo was horrible. Now it's beautiful. It's like amazing the difference just their filters can make. So definitely recommend that for photo editing.
I think I need that one. I think
yes,
that one I'm putting big arrows next to on my notes.
Yes, it's fabulous. And then I know we were talking about a labeling app that I love that's so cute. It's called This, just THIS. I think it's $2. And its only function is just to add markers like arrow lines or circle endpoint lines to label individual parts of your photo. So if you have a spread where you are promoting various products in one photo, run it through this app. It's very simple. Just follow the instructions and you can label and add text to each item in your photo in just like a minute. And it's really cute. Like you'll probably have people ask you, oh my goodness, like how did you do this? And you can tell them, it was this app. And so I highly recommend that for anybody selling products. It's such a lifesaver when you need to label really quickly.
It's you've got a picture on your website using this little app, and it's a makeup bag with cute bag and a blush with blush written, with the little app, lipstick, facial mask, brush. Cute, I think I said cute bag. But the great thing about this is it's kind of like a roundup post all in one little photo. I didn't really get it until I saw the picture. And I'll link the blog post in the show notes so people can see what we're talking about. But I looked at it and I was thinking, wow, that's like a roundup post for like hardly any extra effort. I love this concept.
Yeah, absolutely. So like if you're selling, some kind a subscription box or something that has multiple items, pull them all out, do an overhead shot, a flat lay type of shot, and just start labeling each item so quickly instead of like, oh, I know when I used to do this on desktop, it took forever, and it didn't look as good. And it's just easy and cute. So I definitely recommend it.
Highly recommended for what I now like to call myself the reluctant Instagrammer.
Yes. But now that you're going to start using your phone, I think you're going to start loving Instagram.
I think, look, to be honest, it's exactly what you just said earlier. For me, it's not the snapping of the picture, although I really struggle with it. We're going to talk about Instagram stories in a minute, but I watch these people's Instagram stories and I think, oh, that's cool. And then I go through my life and I think, oh, yay, I'm sitting in front of a microphone. Who really wants to see a picture of that? Oh, yay, I'm having sushi for lunch. Who really wants to see a picture of that?
Well, honestly, I mean, the things that you mentioned, if you like take a shot that's kind of a cutoff shot where you only, show like a part of your sushi or, something like that, and then you just share about your day, run it through the color story app.
Yep.
Yes, run it through that first.
Use this to highlight what I'm eating.
Yes, totally. Then you can say that. And I am right there with you when it comes to those of us who are service based. It's so tough, to promote when, yes, our lives right now are, not the most exciting thing, but you kind of just look for those interesting, unique moments like sushi. I mean, you're going to connect with those who are following you that love sushi and things that you don't even think, are relatable, you'll find are relatable. It's just a matter of trying to capture that creatively, which does just take practice. But something you mentioned, you said you come across and you see these posts on Instagram. You were asking me before the podcast about collections. I would highly recommend, not that we're, in the business of copying, but we're definitely in the business of being inspired. You can tap the little bookmark icon underneath that image that you're like, I really like what they did there. Tap that, save that to your collections. So when you're looking at your sushi and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I frame this where it's Instagram worthy? We'll go to your collections that you've saved and get inspired and see how did they, frame their photo. And maybe that can help you take that sushi photo that's gonna, get some engagement.
So the collections are only private to you. They're kind of like a little Pinterest board. Would that be like a good analogy?
That's exactly what it is. If you just tap the bookmark icon once, it's going to go into your full list of collections. But if you actually go into your collections, which is accessed on your bio feed page, one of the icons, I believe, is your collections page. If you press down on the bookmark icon underneath a photo you want to save and you press down long, it's going to allow you to add it to a specific collection. So that's where it just becomes just like your Pinterest boards. And there's a ton of reasons why you'd want to save them. Now, something that business accounts can see, they can see how many people have bookmarked their photos, and they can also target you in Facebook ads. But they don't know that you bookmarked it. So you're safe with that. But yeah, just know that like if you bookmark something and next thing you know on Facebook, you're seeing an ad about it, that may be what happened. But for me, the ability to like, I will even, when people tag me with something they've done with my content, I say that may be a great stories clip to screenshot and add to my stories, or I may actually want to repost that on my Instagram feed. Whenever you see a Instagram ad that's really awesome, if you're wanting to tap into Instagram ads, save that ad so you can refer to it when you're ready to create an ad for your business. It's just a ton of reasons why it's a great tool to use.
Who knew? Well, obviously all you Instagrammer people knew. I did not know that. And for me, that is, I love Pinterest. I have a whole bunch of secret boards as well, for all your recipes and home design and all that kind of stuff. But knowing that there is this for Instagram is going to make my life a little bit easier. And I did want to ask you one more thing about apps. I think we already got to 3. But do you have an app that you recommend for taking the backgrounds out of photos? Because I know for retailers, they really want those deep etched photos. And other than sending them off to be done, do you have an app that's actually good at doing it? I know there's a lot of apps that are really not very good, but do you have one that you go to?
Okay, so I'm going to list 2, and it's funny because I had this in my notes for you guys because I know that this is a big thing that you need. If I just want to cut out a product and have just a white background or even a transparent background PNG if you were going to layer it, but that gets more advanced. It's called Magic Eraser. And it's free, and you will just trace around. And I have a tutorial at my blog on this, so if you want to check that out, I think there's even a video because you will need to clean up a little bit here and there. But then when you are ready and you've completely cut your object out, you can either save as a PNG or with a white background. So if you're good with just a white background, this app is great. Now, one that I really love, and it is like a $4 app, but oh goodness, this app is amazing. It's called, excuse me, Pixomatic. And to me, it's probably even better at cleanly cutting your product from the background. And so you just pull in whatever your photo is, you trace around with your finger, and you don't have to be careful. Then you like tap the cut button, but it won't remove the background. You'll go to next. I believe there's next, the word next up in the right hand corner, and it'll take you to like the main editing page. And when there's a red plus sign at the bottom of the screen, you tap that and you can actually insert a different background. So I highly,
Sneaky.
yeah. Yes. So I actually have a free design challenge, which I'm sure that we'll talk about, but it teaches you how to create branded backgrounds that have your exact brand colors based on your hex color codes, how you can create all of that on your phone. So I always recommend that you have a folder in your Photos app, an album of your branded backgrounds. So that way you're consistent when you're doing these product photos. So you can use this app and just insert, any background but it has to be on your phone, obviously, into the background of your product. You can add shadowing to the actual product. You can add text. You can add more than one foreground is what they call your actual cutout. They call it the foreground. You could add other foreground items if you have them saved as PNG files in your camera roll. You can get really advanced. If you're not advanced, just cut out, insert the background, you're good to go. But if you kind of have some Photoshop skills going on, then I think you'll find this a really big lifesaver for cleaning up your photos and doing a lot of fun things with them.
So they were some fantastic apps, and you've already given me the awesome tip about using my selfie camera next time around for my videos. What are your sort of go-to tips for taking a great photo? For someone like me who is design challenged, what are your top tips to say, Sal, if you do these couple of things, your photos are going to be 100% better than the crap that you're putting out right now?
Okay, so and I'm sure you're not putting out crap.
This is why on my feed you see lots of quotes.
Oh, you're a quote girl.
Look, I try lots of pictures of the beach because the beach always looks great with a filter.
Well, I was gonna say you're picking some items that are great for engagement. We'll be honest. So I would definitely recommend, I always share this, it's so basic but so helpful, it's just to wipe your camera lens. And if you just happen to have a what are those called? Microfiber cleaning cloths. Yeah, that'd be great. I have like a little one I have a little bag with my tech gear, but honestly, usually it's my shirt that does the job. So just make sure, because you have your phone with you everywhere, you think of how
many times do we pick it up by the camera?
Exactly.
Like, honestly.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Our fingers. Yes, our greasy fingers tap it all the time. And so photographers take such care with their lenses, and we're here throwing this phone in our purse and doing all this stuff with it, then you definitely want to wipe every time. And it's something you forget, but with habit, you'll start to remember, like wipe that lens, even your front lens, if you're doing a selfie or a selfie video. So that's number one. Obviously, if we're just doing photos, then stability is not as big of a key, but you do want to make sure that you're super still. Lighting, natural lighting, especially for products, is really the best, and you don't need to invest in all of this equipment for lighting. But you just always want to make sure that you have your product positioned where it's getting as much lighting as possible. Whether you put it up next to a window, that's usually your best option if you're indoors. But I know I have a lot of friends who they have a little setup outdoors. And so when the sun is at a certain point of day where it's not too bright and it's not too dim, then they know that's when they need to do their photo shoot. And then you just always want to be shooting your product in the same direction as the light source, which may seem common sense, but I'm actually not a photographer, and was not common sense to me. So if you're like taking a picture and like your product is really dark, it's probably because you are opposite of the light source, and you need to actually be side by side with the sun or whatever it is that's giving light to your product before you take the photo.
Yeah,
And then
I was going to say, light is so important. And again, whilst I have the whole light setup, which I did use for the course videos, the Facebook Lives and my webinars that I do, I kind of time them to be at 10:30 in the morning. And I have literally got a little desk that like a little portable desk with a box on top, and my phone and my laptop sit on top of that, because the light that comes in is so much better than artificial lighting.
Yes, it absolutely is. And I mean, it can be inconvenient, obviously, but if you're like thinking you need all this professional stuff, no, not if you're take advantage of natural lighting. Yeah, and have like some funny little setup. It doesn't matter. Nobody sees that. And if you've got a little space in your house where it's perfect, just leave it and go to it at the time of day, 10:30, like you mentioned, where it's bright, but it's not too bright. And it's the best.
My wrinkles don't look so bad in the natural light.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I will tell you something that I've fallen in love with, but it won't stay turned on long enough, and so sometimes it's weird. But if you're using your phone for lives, just impromptu, informal, whether it's Instagram lives or Facebook lives, I've been using this case called Lumee, Lumee. It's a Lumee light case. It has built-in LED lights in the case that really frames your face. So like, I know we were going to talk about stories, but I will use this all the time. When you're like sitting on the couch and you're like, oh, I want to say something in my stories, but it's nighttime. I just press the button on the back of this case, and it gives you really nice lighting.
Yeah,
actually.
I have one of those for my last phone, which I think in Australia it was called a Luvo. I could be incorrect, but something like Luvo. Maybe it was Lumo.
Okay.
But very, very similar, same thing. And I noticed that nowadays that's a case that your phone sits in, but now they've got like a little circular one that clips over the camera. Look, I don't know if they work, because I've done a lot of research on photography because I'm not very good at it, and I always thought the light had to be hitting the target. So what do you think about those little clip-on lights?
So I share about them, and I mentioned them. They make a difference, but it's very, in my opinion, minute. And I personally have one, and it was never worth it to use it because it wasn't going to be enough. And so the Lumee light case that I have is great, and it's more than enough. And of course, I have a Diva ring light if I want a bigger setup. Yeah, I mean, you can totally invest. I mean, it's better than nothing, right? So I guess like if it's at night and you're choosing between no light and the selfie ring light clip on, yeah, and it's so cheap. But for me, I probably just wouldn't even do it.
Turn the light on, people. Turn the light on.
Yeah, totally. And one other thing I wanted to make sure that people do, and I already mentioned it, but it's just, to press on your screen onto the object that you're taking a photo of, and it'll kind of like flicker, and you'll see a tiny little yellow box surrounding your object. And now that has locked the focus and the exposure onto your product, which is great. That means it's adjusting the aperture and all of that based on the product and not the surrounding background. And you actually have a slider that you can just go up or down to increase or decrease the exposure. So that's also something to make sure that you always do. And if you have a plus, just your camera options at the bottom, whether it's square or regular, you should also have a portrait option. So if you're using natural lighting, portrait doesn't always work for me when I'm using artificial, but if you're using good natural lighting, swipe over to portrait, and it's just amazing the magic that you can do when you take photos with that setting.
Okay, there's another tip for me. They're full of them. Okay. what was my next question? Oh, Instagram stories. I was so caught up in the writing all these things down, so I keep track of them. I was like, okay, Instagram stories. Can you give us maybe, just a couple of pointers on how to create an Instagram story that's actually engaging?
Okay. I guess let's see. I'm trying to think. It's so funny. It's like I do a million things, and then when I need to actually narrow in, it's like, okay, what do I actually do? Okay.
Well, tell us what was in your last Instagram story.
Well, my last Instagram story, it was, I think I probably had a combination of, I always try to do something personal, and right now I struggle as you do with having interesting content, so it's usually my dog that ends up in my stories. But I definitely recommend always giving some personal insight to something that you love, and whether that's your dog, or going, if you do a daily jog and the weather's beautiful, like you don't even have to show yourself, like just do a video clip of the scenery, and then you could add a caption, say hello everyone, or you could just add a quote, that has been like your quote for the moment, and just kind of leave it there, mysterious but encouraging. So I always try to do something personal. So I know I have one of my dog that was like hiding under some covers or something. Then I also like to, and it depends on what you provide, but as far as retailers, give them some behind the scenes unboxing. That's like awesome. So people just love, even if they, it's not something they're going to get, there's something about seeing a box and having the contents revealed. So if you get a package that is a new item that you're adding to your store, guide them through it, and let them see that. Something else I think would be really cool to utilize. It takes a little bit of effort, but there's a stop motion feature in Instagram stories. So at the bottom where you have your different tools, swipe all the way. It's pretty much all the way to the right. It's called stop motion. So you can take individual photos, but then it'll put them all together. So I did this one time when I was sharing the components that I had in my travel tech bag. So I would just like take one item out of the bag, take a picture, take another one out of the bag until they were all laid out. And I did that all in Instagram stories, and it was a really cool effect. I saved it to my camera roll as well. If you're proud of a certain story, save it to your camera roll, because we're talking, that's repurposing magic right there. So then I've got it saved. I'll probably do something to also put on my feed, or when I'm ready to promote this product. I mean, I've already got a stop motion video created, which is awesome. So anything where you show new products. The cool thing about stories is, for those of us who are uncomfortable with feeling like you're selling, with stories, you just you just show it. You're not selling, but you're giving exposure to your products in a natural way. And it also helps people get to know you, even if they're not seeing you, if they're hearing your voice, it makes them remember you, which bottom line is what you want. You want them to remember you, remember your products, so they'll become customers. So stories is just amazing for doing that. And then for me as a service-based, and Celine, I think this would be helpful for you. When I think of a tip, then I'm like, oh yeah, this would help my audience. I'll do a tip post. So my very last one is I've been kind of doing this series where I call it Couch Hustler Tip of the Day. And I'll just show like an image of, I think today I was talking about, if you want to make sure your phone's level before you video, if you go to the Compass app, this is iPhone, if you go to the Compass app that is built into your apps at iPhone and then swipe to the right, you'll actually get a leveler that will let you know if your phone is level or not. So if you're afraid you might be tilted or whatever and you're not 100% sure. So that was just a tip that I shared, and I just did it all in text on top of a branded background, which I have already mentioned. I have an album full of branded backgrounds, and those come in really helpful for stories when you're like, I want to share something in writing, but I don't have a background, you could just pull in one of those branded backgrounds. Or honestly, what you could do is I will just place my phone down and cover the camera so it's pitch black, and I just take a photo, or I'll video, because photos sometimes pass too quickly in stories if you're going to actually write multiple lines of text and you want your audience to have time to read it. So I'll actually video for like 8 to 10 seconds, and it's just pitch black. Then you can pick the marker tool and pick any color down there that they offer you. If you press down for a couple of seconds onto that black screen, it'll actually completely change solid color to the color that you chose. So whether, if you're like pink is your main brand color, then use the pink marker, press down, it's going to change that black video to a pink video. And now you have a nice background to add your text to talk to your audience about whatever. And polls, I'll mention this really now I'm starting to remember all the things I do. Polls is a sticker feature. When you tap the little sticker icon, it's like the second one at the top. And then you'll see a word that says polls. Tap polls, ask questions of your audience all the time. Like, do you want to see this in the next product lineup? Yes or no. And you can actually look at this data and see, whether people like this. Or if you're trying to decide, like I was trying to decide between two different stands to go into my tech bag. I actually videoed both of them side by side. I tapped sticker, tapped poll, added in the poll, you get two options. You can only have two choices for your audience to choose from. And I put that there, and I was like, left or right. So they chose which one that they preferred to go into the tech bag. So it's also an awesome way to get feedback from your audience to help guide you in your future, items that you choose to sell and all of that.
That polls thing, I did not know how to do that. So look, as I said, 2 pages full of notes already. And you've got so many things that I'm going to link to. You also have a free course, don't you?
Yeah, I have a couple of free courses. The one that was where it all started is called the Couch Hustler course, because it's what we call ourselves, those that do our visual content creation. Pretty much we're usually in a lazy position instead of having to be upright at a desktop. So we call ourselves Couch Hustlers, and that kind of gives you the basics. You get a few tutorials on design, photography, storage, and how you can really get started and see if you like this type of visual content creation, which honestly, I feel this is the future. Of course, I'm going to say that it's my stuff, but I feel like this is where we're at now, using our phones to market our businesses. So that's my main course, but there's an iPhone photography course, which I think would be really awesome it's for products. For any of you that want to do better with taking photos and videos, it's video focused as well, of your products. And then I also, on that same page up at the header, I have the design challenge, which if you heard these things about being able to implement a background, a branded background that has your colors into your social media posts, if that interests you, then you can take that in 4 days. You learn it all, and then you have a cool album of branded backgrounds to use in your iPhone designs.
Amazing. I'm actually looking at them on the website going, okay, 9 days. I reckon I could do that.
Totally.
Okay, so I have to ask you, what is your favorite store?
Favorite store? Oh my goodness. Okay. Trying to think, because I'm such a big online shopper.
It can be an online store. What's your favorite online store?
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's like a specific one, and I really want to do one, obviously, that's small business operated. I mean, I'm really a sucker for Etsy, and I know, I don't know that that's not really standalone retail, But I love to explore. I just love when people make things by hand. There's a recent store there that I purchased from, and I do not have their name. I'm horrible with remembering names, but I bought shampoo soap, to try to be more natural. And it smells so good. And I think what I love too is just like that personal touch that you get when you order from individuals there. But I'm not prepared for that one. I know afterwards I'll message you and be like, oh my goodness, could you please tell them this story? It's amazing. But I will tell you this. If anybody goes to my Instagram account and at my highlights, which is another topic we didn't talk about, but one of them is like backgrounds. And if you tap on backgrounds, my original, the first photos that show up are photos I took when I visited my brother for his baby shower in California. And I'm over here in South Carolina. And it was just the cutest gift shop. It was amazing. And there was natural lighting. I started taking, it was New Year's, so I was taking pictures. They had like all these like disco ball drink cups and just beautiful decorations. And so I just snapped a few shots. I wasn't even in there to purchase because it was for my sister-in-law. She was getting things for the baby shower, and I used portrait mode and the natural lighting and the beautiful setup that the store had, which I'm not sure if I mentioned the name of it. I think it was Party something. Anyways, it was just amazing. And it was just a small individual owned shop. But if you look at those photos, it really kind of shows you how quickly I took those all in one setting. I ran them through the A Color Story app, and that was it. And like I offered them to my audience to use as backgrounds for their designs. I could just screenshot them and use them as backgrounds in their Instagram feed or Instagram stories, and people loved it. And yeah, it would be so great if I had the store name. They're in California near Los Angeles somewhere.
Poor people's store is out there on the internet land, and they don't even know.
Yes. But yeah, it was a really cool experience because I need to do better at going to small business operated stores because it's just that personal touch that's amazing.
That would mean you have to get off the couch.
Right, and who wants to do that?
All right, well, thank you so much for all of those tips. As I said, I've taken 2 pages of notes. If you are listening to these on the go, we're going to link to a bunch of the blog posts that Tabitha has created, so you can just click those, have a browse around her site, do her free mini course, and I'm assuming you got some paid courses there if people want to go to the next level.
Yeah, I every quarter I do open up membership to the Smartphone Marketing School, which is a thorough course site and Facebook group for learning how to do everything visually from your iPhone, although we do have a support group for Android users, although it's not my specialty. And that's opening up in March. I'm not sure when this podcast goes out. But then currently, a friend and I that we're both obsessed with stories, which is free organic reach right now in 2018, which is so hard to find as these algorithms keep knocking us business owners down at Facebook and Instagram. But anyways, we have like a subscription where you get access to trainings for Instagram stories and Facebook stories, because if you have a page now, you should have access to uploading stories there as well, so you can repurpose the same story at both platforms. But anyways, it's called Mobile Story Studio. You can find that at my page at Smartphone Marketing School. It's under my tab section. And that's just a fun little monthly subscription where you get the training and then weekly challenges in a Facebook group where we give new app tutorials and hacks for how to create engaging stories.
Fantastic. And we'll put all the links to all of those. There's going to be a lot of links in this episode in the show notes. So thank you so much for being on the show. And I can't wait to put some of these in action.
Thank you, Selena. And yes, I hope you convert into a couch hustler. That would make me so happy.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.